After Pain is Love, after 336, there was a little more they believed a little bit more in the fact that, you know what, maybe this kid knows what he's doing. Maybe it's not a fluke. Maybe he knows what the fuck he's doing. He's writing records for other people. So with Pain is Love, they believed in the project, and was full steam ahead on everything I was doing.
What was your frame of mind when you were doing that?
Pain is Love, I was happy. It was a good time. Everything was going good. We were selling a lot of records. And Pain is Love, I wanted to top 336. That was my focus on Pain is Love. I wanted to make a better album than 336. Because when I made 336, God, he was saying, like, man, you can't make a better album than that. That shit, that took the cake. We did fucking like 3 million on 336. So, God was like, whew, boy, we did it. Like,
that's it.
Pack up and go home.
That motherfucker.
Ain't no hype for it.
Yeah, like, you do better than that, boy, you good. You know what I'm saying? And so the challenge was out there, and I really just wanted to top that out to a better album than 336. And yeah, I think I did. I think Pain is Love is one of my best albums.
The public felt that way as well, obviously.
Yeah.
Highest selling album.
Highest selling. I mean, those records were just reflecting such a good time I was having. Free spirited. Everything was just going good, and the records sometimes reflect that. And that album, like I said, that album was an album I worked on with all intentions of topping 336. And records that I made on that album, I just wanted to be super high. And I strive to do that with that album.
And that was the first time you hooked up with Seven as well.
Yeah, new producer. I mean, each album I had a new producer. That's funny too, because I never kind of stuck with what worked producer-wise. I always ventured off and did something new. All right. Everybody.
It's good that no one's seen something like this before. Then the Last Temptation, we heard that you and Seven were gonna go back initially to your BBB style, go back to the street style. That was the initial plan for it, the original plan.
And Last Temptation, hip hop was starting to take a little turn, and I was feeling like I was the last of my kind, the last, which was probably a true statement as I look at it now. The last artist that actually indulged in the culture of hip hop. You understand? As far as, breakdancing and, graffiti. Like, I did all that shit. I was Kid Fresh, and I was in the breakdancing crew. And, you know what I'm saying? Like, you had the hat, with the Kid Fresh on it, with the bomber. So we did all that stupid shit. Bomb Train. We did all of that. Excuse me. We did all of that shit, and at that time I was making that album, I said, if you're an artist and you're not my age, right about now, you probably will never live that culture. You probably will never get to experience all of hip-hop, and that's what Last Temptation was about. It was more saying I'm the last artist that y'all hear that truly, it really lives and loves hip-hop like that. And looking at it in retrospect, I'm probably was right. Like, a lot of these artists right here, they're not students of hip hop. They don't love hip hop. They don't, they just want to make money. They never, broke dance. They never did graffiti. They never lived the whole culture of hip hop. I even used to DJ for a little while. You understand? Like, so, like, I tried everything. You know what I'm saying? In hip hop as the offer. And I just don't think any of these new artists give a fuck about none of that. I'm not saying that they have to, you know what I'm saying? That's old school shit. You know what I'm saying? But I'm an older guy, and you know, like I said, I was probably the last one of the last artists that was gonna come out that really lived the culture of hip hop. You know what I mean?
What changed the direction? Like what made you say, fuck it, let's go ahead and continue to make the hit records that we made, that we've been making?
The label, money. You understand? See, what artists don't understand is once the label actually realizes that you are capable of making #1 records, hit records, big records, they don't want to hear your little street records. They don't want to hear that shit. Matter of fact, don't be making them shits on our dime. You know what I'm saying? When we're paying for studio time, make the big records. You can go in your own little studio and do that street shit. Artists don't understand how difficult that is when you're caught in that way, because some artists never make those big records, so their label never puts that pressure on them, so they don't never understand what I'm talking about. You understand what I'm saying? And then other artists know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Where's that pressure? Where, motherfucker, we gotta make quota, and such as album just came out and didn't do too well. So we don't want to hear that you're making a street album. We have to pay you and pay for that budget for that album. We don't want a street album. And you as a talent, you're like, hey, I'm talented. You know, I'm a talented guy. I'll do a couple of street records, you know, and then I'll make the big records. I want to make money too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's business. You understand? Like we all understand. We're all adults. We all understand this. So you know, you fall into that zone, and you know, as an artist, you see it as you want to make records that are as big as possible anyway, because why the fuck else are we doing? You know, if you're not making records that touch the world, you're really making records for your homies. You know, why the fuck else are we doing it? But, you know, artists go through a lot. They go through a lot of different modes, different zones. Real artists, you know, when you're a true artist, you go through different zones and you find ways to please and appease yourself at the moment through your artistry, you know. Like, kind of like when I did Blood in My Eye. Well, we'll get to that.